Lucky Boys Podcast.
After all these years, you are throwing your hat in the ring to become the next mayor of New York City.
Well, let me correct that. My beret in the ring.
And your beret.
Not my beret in the ring. Yeah. Well, look, I've seen my city deteriorate under the worst mayor we've ever had in our lifetime. I call him Comrade Bill de Blasio, the part-time mayor, the dope from Park Slope, who prefers to smoke, a few fatties at night, a Maui Wowie and Hindu Kush, instead of having a martini or a cocktail, to end his night. And it just perforates everything he does. He has attention deficit disorder. He says one thing, he doesn't do it. But he's so typical of politicians. Do as I say, but not as I do. And look at what has happened. All the misinformation, the lack of sensitivity. He's in his bunker each and every day telling us how bad things are. And we're saying, how about being a little bit of a cheerleader? How about walking out into the streets, going to a retail establishment or a restaurant? I remember the one time he left City Hall with his staff to get some ice cream in Chinatown, right off Mott Street.
Right.
A simple merchant came up to him. I had a bakery shop.
Patrick Mock.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, please. He turned his back on Patrick and he walked away back to City Hall. You said, you couldn't spend 5 minutes talking to this man who is A, respectful, B, pointing out a dilemma that a lot of businessmen and women have, and C, you were so pretentious, so erudite, so beneath me to have to speak to a common citizen. And that's so typical of his administration. So, in Chinatown and everywhere else, whenever Bill de Blasio's name is mentioned, whenever he is seen, which is on rare occasion, he gets the fickle finger of fate salute, which is the middle finger. Right. From Democrats, Republicans, apoliticals, far left, far right, he is universally despised. And I can't wait till he goes back to Harvard University, becomes an adjunct professor in Cambridge, where he was birthed, and gets out of our area for good.
Wow. So why don't you tell me what you do like about him?
Nothing.
Shots fired.
Well, look, think of it. You look at your Chinese traditions, right? You imagine if you changed your last name. I'm part Italian, part Polish. That would be a Shanda u disgrazia. He changed his last name from von Wilhelm, his father. His father was
German?
Yes. Mm-hmm. His father was a war hero in the Pacific against the Japanese. He got severely injured. And then he created this story, my father was abusive, so I changed my last name to my mother's maiden name. And you know what that was all about. Figuring you can't win in New York City running in an election with a German last name. Well, guess what? Donald Trump, last name German, became president of the United States.
Well, Donald Trump, he shortened his last name, right?
Oh, yeah, it was Trump.
Trump, yeah.
Trump.
Yeah.
And then he created Trump. But the point being is, you notice he was already analyzing that when it came to New York, thinking he was going to run. De Blasio, Italian name, would be much better. And yet all of his siblings, I think there's 4 or 5 of them, one who owns a restaurant in Atlantic City, they never let go of their last name. They're all von Wilhelms. That tells you something about the psyche of this person, that he would change his last name, dishonor his father, because he felt having an Italian last name, his mother's maiden name, would be better for him politically. Mm-hmm. I mean, what kind of a man is that?
A lot of actors and models do that. People in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, but
change them.
They're
names.
Forced to. They're forced to by the industry.
Yeah.
But nobody forced him to do that. He chose that. And then he disparaged his father. Because he had to explain it. He openly disparaged his father. How do you disparage your father or mother? If you disparage your own father or mother, whatever problems they had, then imagine what you think about the other people who are around you. You're going to treat them as if they were what we call the stuff underneath. In Italian, we have a phrase for that, schifosa. The worst imaginable thing you could have underneath your boot or your foot.
Oh, it's like scum.
Yeah, scum of the world.
Worse than gum.
Yeah. So that's why we Asians like to take off our shoes before we enter a home.
Exactly.
That's respectful.
Well, my wife makes me do that. She says, all the places you've been, first thing you do is you take those shoes off, and not only that, you wipe them down with alcohol, because I don't want those shoes in the house. Yeah, in all the places I've been, in the flotsam and jetsam, she's absolutely correct.
Yeah, I mean, you do bring a lot of germs in. I think there was a study on it. They were like, you know what, Asians actually might be onto something with that.
Especially if you have carpet in the home.
Especially if you have carpet, it sticks.
Notice you started with the shoes, and how many of us follow that tradition? Now the masks. How many of us follow the tradition? See, you Asians lead, and eventually we have to follow.